How's it going, everyone? I am back after my main deck got slaughtered on the list, and I ended up going through some very fortuitous events of being in the process of dropping Mathmech anyway, because it was on its way out, and picking up, doesn't tell you anything be showing you Ash, Runick Bystial, which we're going to go through. I really looked out on this. I'd already picked up my Quems prior to the YCS win, picked up most of the core prior to it, and I've been on it since and learning more as I go. There's a few things I'll discuss, probably stuff I'll change. I have experimented with all the variants that I'm aware of on the tuner side, and there's some new toxicity available now. So we'll just get into it. I'll throw in the Quem. 3 Ash. I kind of want to bump up the hand trap count. It's a difficulty for all Runick decks, but Ash is great. It being the only one I can have, it is the only one I'd choose. But I'd like to work in, like, Jesus, crows into the side, for example. There's certain things that are just... It feels like you need just a little bit more, because you can push through and a lot and set up, but having the Ash in hand or having a disruption in hand makes life a lot easier. Sometimes it's a bit of a struggle, but only one having the only slot I tend to always pick Ash the vast majority of the time. 3 Quem. Any build you go for, it's 3 Quem mandatory. It's a tuner itself, and it sets up recursive tuners or an explosive start with tuners. My preferred build currently is the 3 Quems, 1 incredible, 1 golden. I've seen that some people are experimenting with multiple Ecclesias. It's good. It's good going second. It's nice for the recursion as well, because it has the Cartesia clause where it comes back to hand. But basically, Quem, a Bystial, and a Runick, which, you know, like, if people are saying there's a 3-card combo, I guess, but that's your full board. You also have a lot of other ways of, like, muddling through to the same thing, especially seeing as you can loop Fountain. But Quem would send Incredible, you summon a Runick, summon back the Incredible, tag it out, special that, do synchro plays. If anything gets banished, you get a 3rd tuner in rotation. And with Dis Pater, if it is specifically a Bystial you're doing it with, you end up going like 4 tuners up. So you end up with a loaded, ideally a loaded Dis Pater that'll just get reborn in their turn with some gnarly synchros on field. I have gone full combo with these and the Bystials, using the Runics just as E-tellies, and people have just scooped the cards up there and then a couple times. So it's an aggressive board, even though it's kind of a control deck. The Bystial Aluber, the only utility in this build which is different for others, because if this is engraven you're using Cartesia, Cartesia is permanently recurable. This is only to be a searchable tuner, so you can at least establish a negate if things aren't going right. Bit of a lighter Bystial package, 1 Magna, 1 Saronir, 1 Druiswurm, 1 Baldrake. So the way that I tend to look at this is Saronir essentially gets you to Lubellion, so you're kind of running it at 4 in a way, because you can usually always get it off the field. So these are your consistency cards. These you really want to have set up where you've like searched one to hand and one's been dumped to grave, and have an established lost, because the ideal play is someone will summon an extra deck monster and have a loose material, or you time it right, you tribute the Druiswurm, banish the extra deck monster, and you've just kind of broke the board halfway through it being built. Magna's phenomenal. Can search the Bystial Aluber in M phase as well. Typically not something that comes up, but obviously any dragon. Brilliant. The Bystial Aluber also has a niche effect where you can steal a dragon. I have yet to have that come up, but be aware of it. It has to tribute itself to do it. Lubellion, rotors for all of them, notably cannot be recurred via Dis Pater, even though it is a light monster. It can only be, can't be normal summoned or set, and must be special summoned from your hand or graveyard, not banished. So, careful with trying to loop that. It's a bit of a rookie mistake I've made before. Regained's insane. Regained is pretty much what makes this deck borderline able to just go infinite on grind. 2 Regained in the main deck as well. Phenomenal. You can drop it to 1. I tend to do that in sideboarding. But generally, if a light or dark gets banished, shuffle it back, so recurring your own resources. Or if it's off SP, you deprive people of theirs, so the SP banish is permanent because it gets put back to extra or main, and then draw a card. So you plus in, you're recurring, and you can potentially be pairing it with Disruption to make the Disruption a lot more meaningful. Additionally, if they normal or special summon while you have a Bystial Engrave, you can special it out. So that gives you, as I said, the Dis Pater plays. You can just reborn Magna. It's cracked. Duality, I am definitely finding as the most cutable card. When it doesn't perform, it does not perform. But when it does, it's clutch. So there's a couple of obnoxious targets for it that you can play. But mostly you are looking to insulate your Hugin via Allvain, and then its grave effect is fantastic, where banish it, shuffle a light and a dark back, and draw a card. Again, really facilitating Runick Fountain loops, because off that you can kind of just put a Hugin and a Geri back, or whatever he's called. And then you've just got the whole line again, assuming you're drawing different names, which not too bad. Fountain, soft ones per turn, bottom deck 3, draw 3, and you can play your Runicks from hand. That's the shorthand. It's keycard, Cosmic really hurts. You can do some really obnoxious stuff though with the protection that the deck allows. Tip is your rotor and banish 1 off the top for any Runick name. It also has the clause to E-Telly, and notably you cannot attack on your next battle phase after activating a Runick card. Make sure you're declaring the battle phase. It's dumb that you have to, because it's just something that you go through the motions with anyway. But if you say end phase, you have not conducted your next battle phase. So always go battle phase, end phase. So you don't get caught out, because like as much as it's a Runick deck, you are looking to swing with this quite often. Flashing Fire, it blows a special summon monster up, and you banish 2. So and has the E-Telly effect and the battle effect. All of them have the E-Telly and battle effect. Freezing Curses is target an effect monster, so it's just infinite impermanence or effect veiler, and negate its effects, and then banish the top 3, which is pretty good. Obviously all the other clauses. Destruction is very nice if you find yourself in a position where you're having to go for deck out. This hits for 4 off the top of the deck. This is an MST. Slumber is absolutely mandatory, because if you're trying to cycle them to bottom deck 3 and draw, then you really need to be able to target your extra deck monster. It can kind of cut you off if you don't have Slumber access. Its effect to protect a card, so the next time it would be destroyed by battle or card effect, it is not. Can come up particularly on Chaos Angel, depending on the kind of removal you're dealing with. a lot of the time it's just to cycle and banish 3 off the top. But just getting an activation so you can draw 3 is big. Going +3 is nuts. Smiting Storm, you can just use it to close out games in like more niche circumstances. It's just another name mainly, and Dispelling is a hand rip if they've added one, but again, it's mainly to have a nice critical mass of names. This is kind of the Joshua Schmidt preference on ratio, I think, but I really like the ratio. I'm not huge on Golden Droplet unless you're going for aggressively milling. I really just like the utility cards. I like the flexibility of the one-offs though, to have additional names just in case anything comes up that's a little bit funky. So if you just need a quirkier name that you know you're going to cycle anyway, and you're bottom decking it and drawing, so you're absolutely not going to draw duplicates, it's quite nice. So that's the main deck for now, as is how I'm playing it currently. The extra is Tri-Edge Master. It's bloody brilliant. You are always doing it with a 4 and a 2, so you're drawing a card. It just ladders you into Baron nicely. Coral Dragon is the adverse. It has a bonus effect of you can put it up, discard a card, pop a card. Cool. It's just the opposite, really. So this will draw a card once it's synchroed off. This draws a card on summon. So neither of them are something that I would expect anyone to interrupt. It's just not worth it, but it's a +1. Depending how your field shapes up, this is not a synchro, this is. The downside is it's water, so there's not a lot of synergy with the light and dark side, with the more chaos attributes, but by and large, it gets you out some awkward places. I'd say it is mandatory, if not a little niche. Legatia is fantastic. It's a giant body that says monsters with under 2k attack can't be destroyed by, I believe, battle. Yeah, can't be destroyed by battle. Everyone always forgets that. That's fine anyway, you normally have your bases covered on that. But it says draw on it, and it's on a 3500 body, so you draw a card, pop a card, if there's a card to pop. There are some situations where you are just going to pivot through this in turn 1 anyway, just to get an extra draw, keep your engine rolling. Baron, it's insulation, it's a negate, it's disruption, it recycles. A lot of the time you can recycle your tuners anyway, so you just end up putting a Bystial back on the field like Magnamhut. Plussing off that, you've added Cartesia back to hand anyway, so you can normal Cartesia, go straight back into Baron after it's tagged out, and giving you a plus. It's nuts. Chaos Angel is a house. Don't over-rely on it. It can be a last gambit of put up an unaffected Chaos Angel, or it can be a nail in the coffin on a board that's already strong. So if you're dealing with a Baron that is unaffected by monster effects, a Dis Pater that's unaffected by monster effects, and, you know, like a Legatia or a Chengying, I don't really see you getting out of that situation easily. Normally you've got everything in defense anyway, so until you're swinging, so there's a lot of that kind of stuff where it's like Lightning Storm's not going to be bothering you. But yeah, the Chaos Angel is solid. Dis Pater essentially makes you go 4 for tuners, because of the way Golden Swordsoul works. And it's disruption. It's either destruction or a negate, depending what you shuffle back. It has to be a monster negate though, which I learned the hard way as well. Chengying, it banishes stuff, it gets massive, it outs the things that are a pain in the ass to out. It's why we don't need to run Goddess. It's pretty solid, just because it gets its bump based on the banish, and banish is going to be big. If you can just sit on this with a Chaos Angel up, even if they're playing a Towers game, chances are they aren't doing too much else. You don't tend to just chuck a towers up casually and it not be a key part of your game plan. So you can play the long game with this and then just blitz the towers out of the game. Yes, it's time option. More importantly, it gives you a second target for duality rather than just the one instance. And it's pretty important because if you activate Lubellion, they're going to want to hit it on activation, not on like summon or anything. You can then use duality to tag it out and get your stuff online. Additionally, it's a little bit swingy in the sense of like they can be amassing too much on their side of the field. They're gonna swing the game in their favor. Just blow the board up. It does burn, but there's more to it than that. It's not just a standard time option. Allvain is a target for duality. It's a level 2 tuner. It's a vanilla. Don't try and make SP out of it. But other than that, you should be able to kind of shape your levels. Notable ones are Bystial in it is any 10 you want, and it's light and dark. Chaos Angel. I suppose you can use a standard Bystial if you have to, again, to go into Scarlight, which kind of furthers the utility because sometimes you just need to get, like, say a how have I forgot the name? Saronir. Saronir Engrave. You can then dump the Lubellion, tribute the Scarlight. There's a bunch of niche interactions with it, but Allvain is mainly there, so you can dodge for Hugin. Hugin protects and searches your Fountain, which is kind of important. Fountain's a pretty big deal in this deck. So you discard a card as cost, search your Fountain. Additionally, if something's going to be destroyed, banish it, and protect. Banishing it can trigger regained as well. It's fantastic. So like you can have it where someone harpies feather dust you chain a Runick to it, and the way the ruling goes is you banish this and protect. I've had people get a bit confused with chain links on that and stuff, but it does work. That is how it works. And Geri, other than being a level 4 dark, which can come up, adds Fountain back to hand. It's how you loop. Cannot be destroyed by card effects, which is pretty nice. If this card is special summoned, you can target one non-quick play Runick. It's Fountain. Spell in your graveyard, add it to your hand. When the card is destroyed by battle, you can target one card on the field and destroy it. That's quite nice. Never happens. I don't think you are ever just sticking a Geri up and leaving it there. Sleipnir is like a little SP, so in your main phase or your opponent's battle phase, so it does have some battle shenanigans, you can target another card in itself, banish it. I think it is just itself and another, not like SP. Target one face-up monster your opponent control. Banish both that monster and this card, yes. And then if card's added from deck to hand other than by... I don't even know if it's other than by drawing it. Nope, not other than by drawing it. You can just summon a token, which is a level 4, attack 15, defense 15, light fairy. So that can be relevant. That can be really relevant. I haven't abused that much yet. I'm still learning. SP is SP. It's the format staple for a reason. It dodges negation. It reduces the impact of evenly. It disrupts. It has banish on top of it. It's bloody brilliant. And I am so lucky that I pulled it. And it is a travesty on how much it is getting to cost now. I suppose it's one of those things where there's always an extra deck monster, but the state you go get a bit spinny, you know, and SP is contributing to that. On top of that, we've got Typhon. It does help, but if you're putting this out, it's a gambit. It tends to be your last ditch. Notably, you can kind of play fairly, you know, you could stick a Starslayer out or a Typhon, whatever you want to call it. You can put that out and you can play pretty standard with your Runick engine. You're not bound to special summon it. Depends how your hands shape up and what you've got available resource-wise. So you can pivot into a more controller game, bounce something, and they're getting floodgated where anything with 3k or more attack can't activate its effects. So notably Zeus, Baron, you are turning it off. And it's pretty good. So that's the main deck. Now I need to work a little on my side deck, but we can abuse something here. And I'm not a fan of it. I don't like it, but it's strong. Ghost Meets Girl, Rollback, Beatrice. Currently, we can't abuse Eradicate or Epidemic as far as the rulings seem to be going. The general advice is ask your head judge. That's likely to change, so if you're watching it in the future, you'll know better than me. Basically, 2/6s, you can make them really easily. Obviously, you've got all your Bystials, your Bystial Searchers, and you pivot through your extra deck predominantly through 6s. I went damn near full board, slapped this on the end, and dumped. I didn't even get round to dumping it. I had drawn Ghost Meets Girl, discarded it, and then the question was, are you sending rollback? If so, I'll scoop. And I was in fact sending rollback. Big thing as well, don't shotgun it. Wait until they commit. You are kind of playing chicken with it because you can't capitalise in the same way because you have a battle phase lag. So you can just hold it there as a consistent threat of if they try, then you'll stop them. But you're paying half your life points and you can get into grindy estates. It's in the side, so your game ones tend to run a little bit long. I'm working on closing that down a little bit, but yeah. You get into a grindy estate and it's not necessarily a good thing, but hold it. If they try and commit, once you're clear to battle phase, because everything in your extra deck is huge. Like, even just slamming a Starslayer up at the end of a combo or something like that, bangs 2/9 on the board. Probably not one that's going to come up, but one that definitely does is throwing out Sleipnir while you're in the battle phase just to get an additional 1500. All your synchros are massive. Like, none of your ending synchros are sub 3k, and both these are plus 2k. You can carve through life points pretty easily. So, yeah. I'm yet to properly fully test this, and if they just bait to commit when they have no intention of, and you kind of take that bait, that's also that's kind of a way you can play around that, because yeah, if they're just running into it, you are burning yourself for 4k, and they can just continue to amass resources for a big push. So you need to be looking at closing the game out if you're doing that. It's kind of had me thinking about my Bystial counts. But that's not all. You can play Cartesia at 1 with the 3 Quem, an additional Saronir, and a where is he? Bystial Aluber. That gives you the YCS winning build, essentially. The way it's working, you have no intention of using Quem's fusion. You are just using her as a consistent loop because you have a Luber in grave mode, more than likely. to keep getting her on field. It is a slower way of doing it, but you can kind of afford that in Runick. It obviously works really well for YCS, so that's one. The other thing, you can introduce 3 cards easier. A Grand, a Lulu, and a Garura. The Lulu isn't mandatory, but I think the Garura is. So you can use Cartesia as kind of a double duty duality. So if you try and target and negate you fuse off with Cartesia and your Hugin into the Dust Dragon, dump the Garura on summon, draw a card. Off that, your level synergy allows you to go into Lulu. And Lulu is a permanent threat of basically imperming them, because you tend to be able to pop a card out of extra deck whenever you want. Haven't tested this build thoroughly enough. The additional Saronir is probably needed for a few different variants. I think if you're going to up your Bystial count, it is an additional Saronir. And lastly, Fabled Unicorn is very funny. So it's a target for Geri and Duality. So you tribute Geri off for the Fabled Unicorn. You can modulate your hand down as much as you want, as long as you don't have an Ash, an Incredible, a Golden. Everything else pretty much works. Additional dualities you would just make sure to set, probably. Everything else is a quick play. Bystial Aluber and Quems. So, idea being, if you have anything apart from these in your hand, and to be fair, you can have one in your hand, modulate it all the way down along the line with them playing, and by the time they've broke the lock, they can't play. It's funny. I don't know how good I would call it. Pretty niche, and more often than not, no one cares about you adding back the fountain, because if you're committing to putting a fountain in the grave because you can protect it so aggressively, odds on you've got another in your hand anyway and you're just looping it. So it's less high stakes, but they're the options I've found currently. I'm going to be looking at other things I can do to spice the deck up. But yeah, that is Bystial Runick. There's spoilers for the future. There's a whole lot more Runick stuff coming. I've been playing around with a bunch of decks. Not Mathmech, that's dead and packaged and ready to go away. Yeah, so chances are we will be seeing for hire Sprite, we'll be seeing Live Twin Sprite, we'll be seeing the new Earthbound stuff. If I ever manage to source Lopters, if anyone in the Discord has Lopters, my god, please hit me up at a reasonable price. Yeah, I've kind of been all in on Runick. It's been fun. It's different. They're very, very quirky. So, I think I've rambled on long enough. I'm going to get this uploaded and pass it to the editors. I'm sorry in advance for all the off-the-wall stuff that isn't just a basic deck list. Like, comment, subscribe, tell your friends, hit the bell icon, do all those good things. And, yeah, let's change the subject, people. I am leaving.